Hi guys, I'm back with another one, and in this one we are going to do something a little different than usual reviews and setup videos. I'm actually in the middle of process of building a drone for a friend, and he has troubles with the length of his motor wires, and this is his attempt to lengthen the wires to the required length to get the motors onto the new ESC. So I am actually changing the complete wires from the motors to the ESC. So in this one we are going to take off the original wires from the motor and replace them with a new longer wires. So this process is really not necessary if you want to use a race wire, so you simply solder on the wires from the ESC and from the motor. But I don't actually like the race wire because it's not insulated on the bottom, and you need to glue it with some kind of double-sided tape or something. And I find these iFlight's channels look really clean and nice, and you can actually do something like this, different color wires and different thicknesses of wire. I'm actually using 18 kVg wires for this build. It's a little overkill. Simply, you can see here the difference. It actually doesn't do anything if you have thicker or slimmer wires, but I find that these thick wires look actually really good on the builds, and that's what I'm going to use. So yes, first we are going to take the original wires from the motor. This Hobbywing motor actually has something really different than others, and that's some kind of adhesive that helps keep the wires on the motor. So let's remove the heat shrink and the for the removal you need to be really careful with the knife. I run my along the wires like so, cutting into the heat shrink. Like so, and you can already see exposed individual wires. This is really glued on. So we removed the large heat shrink, keeping the individual wires together. Now we are going to remove the little tiny using the same method, but please be careful. These motor winding wires are really sensitive and thin, and be careful not to break them. So we managed to remove the heat shrink from the wires. Let me clean this little piece off. Okay, so we have the motor windings exposed. Now we need our soldering iron. Now we can desolder the wires from the motor. So now we removed the original wires from the motor, and we are going to take our new wires and solder them back onto the motor. So, as always, I use solder paste on the wires. To get them pretend really nicely. Then what I do is actually shorten the wire to get them to the required length, like so. I also use a little bit of solder paste on the motor itself. And I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter, like so. Again, make sure it's really soldered on to the motor, as we don't want them to fall off later during a crash or something. So yeah, now we have the wires soldered onto the motor, and now I'm going to actually cut off this wire. To get the wire really straight, the one thing you can do is simply twist the wires, and it becomes really straight. So just twist. So now we need to insulate individual wires. For that you need your heat shrink, and I like to go as deep as I can into the motor base and leave a little bit of heat shrink so we can bite into the wire. So like so, and I want them same length. So we have three heat shrinks cut to the same length. and we are going simply to slip them over the motor. And as I said, you simply push them as much as you can in their forward position so they align and give as much insulation as possible. Now I'm going to tighten the heat shrink. Now that we have all three wires insulated separately, we need to take our bigger heat shrink and do the same with that. So cut the heat shrink to size. You can simply slip it over, and again go or try to get the heat shrink closer to the motor base as possible, and you simply heat shrink it. The heat shrink is set. Now you have the motor wires extended or replaced to the length you require. Make sure that the motor bell spins freely, and yeah, we managed to replace the wires to get them to the required length, and yeah, it simply looks better than this one. So yeah, hope you guys like these little tutorial videos. Since my affiliate sales are not that great during this COVID time, I'm actually going to do more of these tutorial videos on how to assemble the quad. So yeah, hope you guys like this.